I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the beginning of each meeting, our board always reminds our community and our board and our administration of our district's mission and vision. Our mission is to create a culture of academic excellence through inclusive and innovative learning opportunities for the whole child. And our vision is to empower all learners to reach their full potential in a globally competitive world. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda?
I moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, call the roll.
Mr. Ballant,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter,
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Any changes, additions, corrections? Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Ballant,
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. The next very important part of our meeting today is the recognition of our National Merit semifinalists. Mr. Lewis, would you like to take the honor of? sharing
Yeah,
that?
very excited to talk about these young individuals and then invite them up. And I'm going to give you, while I'm talking, I'm going to give you time to think about this ahead of time, okay? So when you come up, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and talk about a favorite memory from high school. And then what are you thinking about for after high school? So think about that while I'm talking about you, okay? So we had 16 National Merit semifinalists this year. They have been recognized a number of places. We got an opportunity to recognize them and their parents because their parents are amazing supports to them at school a couple of weeks ago. And then we also got to recognize them at our previous home game, the most recent home game, invited them to come out at halftime and just be recognized in front of the entire crowd. So I think that's something special that we do because we want to show our community that we value academics and we want to celebrate these individuals that are in the top 1% of all scholars in Ohio, and that's impressive. So without further ado, now, Mrs. Bitter, I hope you'll humor me. So some of the students are on their way. So if they don't make it here, because some of them were participating in senior night at water polo. So we may have to do it in two pieces. So we'll recognize the ones that are here. And then if we are delayed in any way and have to stop them in the middle of the next item and bring the rest of them up, we'll do that.
We'd be happy
Is
to
that
do
okay?
that. Absolutely.
All right, National Merit semifinalists, come forward. Let's have you stand up here in a line, nice line. We'll get a good picture of all of you. Just, yeah, we'll line up right here in front of the board. Not pretty many of them. Now, who wants to volunteer to go first? So I will call on someone. Okay, I was gonna say, the person that knows I'm gonna call on was ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Siddharth Vikram. And I think my favorite memory in high school was definitely the teachers and the students at the high school. I think one thing that's really special about our community is the passion that the teachers have for the students and the dedication that they put into their job every day. And I also think one thing that makes Sycamore special is the students, of course, because I'm always surrounded by intelligent, like-minded individuals, and we're able to bring each other up. So, yeah. Oh, and
Oh, yeah.
after high school, I think I just want to do more of the same. Just always surround myself with intelligent people and be able to bring other people up.
Who's next?
Hi, I'm Aryan Ube. I'd say that the most memorable part of Sycamore High School was probably the teachers and students alongside Sid. And also participating in extracurriculars with like my friends and the students around me, like really uplifted me as a student. And like all the teachers around me have all like wanted me to grow and learn. It's really nice to see that. And I'd say after high school, I want to do aerospace engineering or electrical engineering at four-year college.
Sure, I can go next. My name is Rohan Parikh. And some of my favorite memories from high school are making new friends freshman year that I had never been introduced to before, and then watching that friendship develop over the course of high school. After high school, I'm planning to pursue something that combines finance and technology.
I'm Rishi Mathur. One of my favorite parts of going through high school was the variety of different classes I could take, and how I could sort of broaden my horizons and learn about a lot of different disciplines to a valuable degree. And after high school, I am probably going to go into CS and math at a four-year college.
Hello, my name is Vivek Gupta. My most memorable experience in high school might have been, I guess, surrounding myself with such a positive and encouraging community. And throughout every class and every opportunity, they've always helped me and given me a chance to grow and learn. And after high school, my plans are to study electrical or computer engineering at a four-year college.
Hi, my name's Nicholas Kashyap, and I think my favorite memory of Sycamore is the variety of extracurriculars and extracurricular activities. I think a lot of them go beyond just academics, and there's like a variety of different experiences that they give you. And so I think that's usually pretty important for just life experience in general. And what I'm going to do after high school is going to be mostly computer science.
Hi, my name is Jack Reinhardt. I definitely say the most memorable part about Sycamore High School has been the relationships that I've formed. Not specifically with like peers, but with peers that I've had, classmates, but also with the teachers, like Mr. Porter. And all of the great teachers that I've had and learning through them. After high school, I'm thinking I want to major in engineering at a four-year college.
My name is Hiroka Teicha. I'm gonna say that my most memorable high school experience was the culture at the high school. I just think the sort of encouraging environment that everyone's mentioned and the diversity of classes and people that you can surround yourself with is incredible. That my teachers have been extremely great, and I've formed really strong bonds with all of them. I've gotten to know a lot of the higher up administration as well. And I think that, I don't know, it's been like it's been a really strong base for higher education. And in college, I'm planning to major in either economics or marketing or business analytics. We're figuring that part out right now.
I'm Andy Burkhardt. I'd say I really enjoyed my experience in high school through like the amount of opportunities in athletics, in academics, and extracurriculars, like in music. And also the amount of opportunities to meet people, meet very interesting peers and teachers. Basically all the opportunities in high school. And I'm planning on majoring in engineering in college.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I would say my favorite part of Sycamore High School is probably how much the teachers care about your success and well-being. I personally have an experience with one of my teachers who I went after school to ask some questions to, and then we got trapped in the school for a little bit longer because it was raining really badly and my parents couldn't pick me up and she wasn't wanting to drive home. And I got to know her a lot, and she was really interested in getting to know my personal life and just getting to know me as a student. She really made me feel seen And I feel like a lot of those teachers at Sycamore are willing to make that connection with you and connect individually with each student. I'm planning to major in biochem after high school on a 3-minute track.
Do you mind sharing that teacher's name?
Yes, Mrs. Cooper.
We'll make sure we pass that along if she's not watching the board meeting. I have one more thing for all of you to do. We'll start down here and just go down the line. That way. You went first last time. We'll give you a break. So, who's here supporting you tonight? And what would you say to them about, finishing your high school experience in a strong manner?
Here supporting me tonight are my mom and my dad, and I just want to say to them, thank you. I'm sorry for a lot of the trouble that will cause. And that will cause. And we're almost done. I'm almost out of your hair. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for hopefully sticking with me.
You're never out of their hair. Never.
My dad's here today and, I think like, he's like my major inspiration in terms of like the field that I'm going into and everything. So, I just want to say thank you for that.
My mom and dad are here tonight, and I feel like the greatest thing they did for me was giving me a lot of freedom in choosing the path I would like to take, and giving me guidance along the way, doing the journey along with me. That's something I will appreciate. My mom is here today, and like everyone else, I obviously want to thank my parents and my mom for sticking with me through everything, supporting me in whatever I've chosen to do, and being very understanding across whatever situation arises, and everything else.
I would like to say thank you to my mom and dad who are here today. And I would like to specifically thank them for believing in me to like take care of my responsibilities on my own and giving me the freedom to pursue whatever I want.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my mom and dad here today as well, like I said, everyone else. I'd like to thank them for supporting me and helping me go in the right direction for like my career and everything in life and high school.
Yeah, my dad and my sister are here today. And I'd like to thank them, first of all, for taking a picture of me as MC. And also just for acting as like a pillar of support and helping me make these tough decisions.
Both of my parents are here today. My dad endures a hotspot, so they're in the front row. And I would like to thank both of them for giving me the ability to try anything I've wanted in the past 18 years. So I've had the ability to dabble in all sorts of topics, all sorts of subjects, even the ones I don't want to. And I think it's just been a really great experience to be able to really find my way and know what I want to do before college even starts and at such a young age.
So my mom and dad are here along with my little brother Jared. And I'd just like to thank them for being here for me all the time and helping to guide me towards trying to find what I want to do and trying to help me be successful.
My mom, dad, and little brother are here with me today. And I want to thank my parents for being so inspirational to me. They're both incredibly hardworking, and every good quality I'd like to say I went from them. And then my little brother, who's my biggest inspiration because he always pushes me to keep going, and he's my #1 supporter. So.
You guys have done an amazing job representing yourselves, your families. I know we've told you before, we're so proud of you for all the accomplishments, but we're most proud of you because of what you're going to do after high school. You're going to make a major impact on this world. But I want you to do something for me and Mr. Porter and the rest of your teachers and supporters. Enjoy the rest of the ride. It's not over yet. I know it feels emotional because it's like we're into the first quarter. You still have 3 quarters left. And enjoy the ride. Enjoy that final celebration. Get ready for graduation, but do it in a way that represents you the way you want to be represented. Do it well. Do it to the best of your ability, which I know you guys will, but I want you to enjoy that final ride and I want you to know you're always welcome back when you're done here. We want you to come back. We want you to come talk to other students and share your experiences, good or bad. We want to share your experiences, right? So we want to learn from our mistakes and move forward. So congratulations again. We're so proud of you. We're gonna have you do a couple more things. I know you guys are sick of pictures probably, but we're still gonna take your picture anyway. So if you can kind of get together a little bit and take one more photo. And then we have something for you. And then the board's gonna come around and shake your hand because they would love to.
Right, guys. Like I said, I'm sure everyone here would also get a picture, which is awesome. I'll get one and then you guys can kind of hop in here. Ready? One. Awesome. Then I'll get out here also.
Yeah, families, go ahead. All right, we're gonna have the board come and shake your hands and congratulate you. Congratulations. 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 Great job, Pete. Don't impress you. Ready? The first trick is figuring out. Can I shake it? Right? If I shake it. Remember getting this. Don't open it. We're gonna open it at the same time, but we're gonna open it. Same time. We'll get one to the other people. All right, ready? All right, now you can open it. If you figure out how to open it, that means you're in the top 1% of the time. And so if you take it out now, I want you to take these to college and brag about them. Oh. Hey, let's put them all in your hand and show them out.
Yeah. I think that's a solid. Yeah, bro, I'm gonna watch.
I think I might need.
Parents. National I don't expect you to wear them to school because, they're awfully large. They're just more to recognize your accomplishment. So have them displayed proudly wherever you would like. You can kiss it if you want. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. I know you guys are extremely busy and people running from water polo and everywhere else, but we definitely wanted to let you do so. Thank you. We know that you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we'll understand if you depart.
Congratulations, parents, on raising great kids. Yes. You did a great job with them. You should be very proud of them.
Carol, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the next item on the agenda is the public participation. But I believe that we have a couple members I know that you would like to speak. We believe we'll wait until the item is until that time. That way we're on the right subject. Is that okay for both of you?
And we actually have 3 people
We
here.
have 3 people here, excuse me.
But you're correct. The only people who've reached out are about an agenda topic. So
Because it's an agenda topic, we'll wait for that item to come up, which will be not too long from now. Okay. Right. Okay, next area we will discuss is the superintendent's agenda. And we will receive a facilities update.
Yeah, we'll give you a quick facilities update. We've talked to you about some of these items before. And most of this surrounds the baseball, softball facility project that we've had a number of conversations about. But to refresh your memory, we have some great individuals out there working hard to fundraise towards the baseball, softball facility. The desire was to at least raise enough money to get to 70% fundraise for phase one, which represented the field, the fencing, the backstop, and the dugouts. The total cost of phase one was 3.77 million. We'll round up and say 3.8. And 70% of that was 2.6 million, with the district contribution being around 1.2 million. So we did get some additional pricing on that through Moats. Moats is a turf company that they do a lot of this work, that we have multiple Moats turf fields in our district. So it made a lot of sense to reach out to them. And what we found out is from that, what we initially projected for the cost, Moats was able to bring that cost down just by looking at what could they do separate from like a general contractor. So there was about a $600,000, I'll say, lesser cost with Moats than looking at our previous general contractor. So that brought the cost down to about 3.2 million. So the total fundraising needed was 2 million, and the total contribution from the board or from the district would have been about 900,000. I am happy to report tonight, as of some additional commitments made and some that are on the agenda tonight, we have reached that goal to be able to move forward with phase one. So some of the things that I would like the board to consider tonight is, number one, authorizing Ms. Logan and Mr. Lovell to go ahead and complete the 50% remaining plans, which that's roughly about $90,000. And that's usually a district cost. And I would encourage the board to make that a district cost, because that's part of the planning process. We need them to move forward. That takes a few weeks to get that, it's 4 to 6 weeks to get that finished. Then once we have that, we can get a true cost from Moats of what is the final price. But I don't see that fluctuating in a major way, because again, they're basing this on current pricing of what they know about our facilities. And I think they have a pretty good sense. What people don't understand is, why is it so expensive to put in a turf field? Like, you would just think you can rip the dirt out, put the turf in, it's all good. It's all the earthwork and the drainage that has to go in. And it is a lot about water retainment that we have to do, because our property is pretty tapped out on keeping the water. So underneath these turf fields, it's going to have to hold it for some period of time before it releases it, so that we don't flood our detention ponds that are up front. They can only hold so much capacity. So those costs, those additional costs, are a lot of the earthwork. And if you've ever been out there, I'm looking over at Steve and Mike, they know there's a lot of work that needs to be done just to level out the field alone. So turf would obviously take that problem away, because we wouldn't have to level it out again. It's going to maintain that surface level. So the other thing that I would ask the board to consider, because we've talked about this in the past, and the great fundraising that has been done is phenomenal. But if we move forward with phase one, there are some portions of the other phases that can't be done. If we go ahead and put the fencing in, we will never be able to get to field lighting, because there's no access. And I don't think ODOT's going to let us shut down 275 to drop light poles behind our baseball facility. So what I would encourage the board to do is authorize Mrs. Logan to present some, what I would consider, finance options to look at this over a long-term period of time. I can happily report to the community that our bond issue that we issued in 2019 to build our 2 new buildings and renovate 2 new buildings, we're collecting less millage than we thought we would. It's going to be a discount to the taxpayers, which gives us some capacity, I believe, to borrow some money to be able to finish off this project and do it the right way. So I would encourage the board, instead of dipping into our cash reserves, to really consider that option. And Mrs. Logan can talk more about what that looks like, what kind of meetings need to be held to do that. But again, I think we're really close to being finished with projects. And I would encourage the board to think about it for the baseball, softball facility. And we've heard a lot about a scene shop that has an academic component as well as an extracurricular component to just kind of wedge these two together. And let's finish them off the right way and be finished. I know Mr. Lovell and I would love to be finished with large construction projects in the near future and just do maintenance at that point. So, Ms. Logan, I don't know if I missed anything, or please feel free to jump in and.
No, I
perspective.
have had a preliminary conversation with financial consultants that would work with us. So there's like a finance team that would help us with the planning and decision-making, at looking at options available for financing if we wanted to go that route. There are options available, and to Mr. Lewis's point, like if we're looking at 3 phases of the baseball softball field, if we're looking at commitments from our community on helping to come up with that 70%, it's over a period of time. And so instead of taking our cash right now and using all of our cash up front to do this project, why not look at financing it over a period of time, which kind of matches when those gifts would be coming in as well. So
Mrs. Logan, is that for the 1.2 million or is that for the above the 1.2 million?
So that's why I have to get bond counsel and the financing people involved to talk about what would those options look like? What would we be able to borrow? And I just don't have those answers yet, but I've had a preliminary conversation. We're looking at dates this month to sit down and to talk about it. But getting those final drawings will also be critical as well, so that we can look at the total project cost. So I'm not sure exactly until I get the advice from what
The drawings, the 50% to finish the drawings would be for all 3 phases drawings for that, or, okay.
Yes. The total project, the drawings for the total project.
Just to clarify, so potentially one option is to do financing for for all the phases and the scene shop. So that is potentially one of the options, right? And then the other question I have is let's say we don't do that. Let's say we choose the option or version where we had previously discussed, where we have commitments to receive donations from different groups that are basically committing in the future that money will come to us. So therefore, we take money from our cash reserve and front the money, and then it comes back to us over time. Does that have a similar effect to our budget, like what we just had, which was, it looks like over some years, we're at a deficit, when in fact, we did get the money back, but there were still years where we were not meeting our budgetary.
Correct. So what I would like to do is model both with, we have a 5-year forecast, which shows our general operating fund. And right now, if we're fronting the money because we don't have a permanent improvement fund, it's going to come from our general fund. So we could model both. We could look at what are the financing options and what would a payment plan look like, and build that expense into the 5-year forecast and see that impact on our general fund versus, okay, we're going to front the cash, take it all out, and now what would it look like as those gifts come in over time? So I'd like to look at both options.
Yeah, I mean, I for one am fine with finishing the drawings. I think that's the next logical step. And as in past projects, we have paid for that as a district. So I would be fine to move forward with that. I think the conversation tonight is very preliminary on what else we would do until we know what that number is. So I look forward to a conversation, more details when we have a firm number and looking at what those impacts are.
And my recommendation while we're figuring that out is that we continue the work on phase 1, which we have met the goal with the commitments that we have. And You know, we still have to wrap up the commitments, but I'm fairly certain that we're well over the mark to be able to move forward with. Because, you know, I think the urgency is we could really lock in with a company and be able to break some ground. And I don't know that, you know, it would be absolutely irresponsible for us to say that we're going to be done this season. But we're going to try like crazy to get, you know, the opportunity for some of the kids to be able to play on that field. But with weather, with all the unknowns, it's impossible to predict. But all we can say is that we certainly will try. We know and Mr. Lovell, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was 14 to 18 weeks on, like, the backstop is a good example, or the turf takes X number of weeks to get in. So it's timing. Can we get it in time? What's the winter like? Can they be out there doing work? Do we really want them doing work during the winter? Those kind of things need to be considered. But I think everyone in the athletic department and on the boosters are committed to, can we make this project move forward? We want to see progress. We think more people will donate when they see progress. And also, can we get it open and do it right? No one wants to rush it and do it wrong. And I don't think any of us do either, but I think there is some urgency into everyone's waited a long time for this. I know Mr. Emhoff has waited his entire life to see this beautiful facility get built.
I would like to say that I agree with Mr. Ballin. I would also want the drawings to get completed because we need to know what the actual costs are, estimates are. And I would agree that the district should cover that. And I'm worried to see is that if we do phase one and then we can't put the lights up, like if we do something and then we can't, that ties our hands. But I also worry that if we don't do something, that we're missing opportunities. So we have to kind of know what our options are. And then I think we just have to make a decision. If the decision ends up being, you know what, we have the money to do phase one and that's what we can get done quickly and we can do it. And if we waited and maybe it would just get pushed down the road too far, so we need to take advantage of the moment, then maybe that's what we do. But I would like to see what all the options are for the whole completion, including the scene shop. To see if the board, and I mean, we have two board members that are not here this evening, so we would want to, everyone needs to weigh in on that. But I want to see the options.
We have to know the price. Sorry.
And know exactly, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Clearly we have to know the price and then.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lovell, we don't have drawings on the scene shop yet.
We do not, no.
Okay, so that would
I think
be,
we have renderings.
We do. We basically went out, worked with an architect to give us some hypotheticals on what they could, but we haven't started the actual.
Would need the drawings for any financing, for sure.
Correct.
So you have to do both, right?
I mean, I think we narrowed it down to like an option and we would have to go back now and allocate the funds to getting those drawings completed.
And are there, do you still, I don't remember the exact details, but there was one scenario where you were potentially working on some other part of the building for the
Yeah.
parking area?
So-
Is that part of it, or is that?
Yeah, so we have some bond funds that are remaining, and part of those bond funds that we held back were to make improvements to door 18, which is the door that is connected most closely to the bus lot at the high school. And so when we got those original renderings from the scene shop, we noticed that there was an opportunity that we could redesign that area in the midst of that. So we kept, I think, $150,000 aside for those potential upgrades, which would take obviously a part of the cost of that scene shop away. Yep.
But if we did drawings for that, would that be part of it?
It would, yeah. I mean,
That's-
no matter what, we need to do something there,
I would-
but we've held off.
Yeah. I would want to see
Still.
the drawings.
Yep.
That part of it. I wouldn't want the version where it didn't have that.
Correct.
Mrs. Logan, there is a time period we have to spend that bond money by. And when is that?
so that's another reason why we're having the meeting with the bond council is to talk through those timelines. But our goal has been by December 31st.
Mhm.
That's our goal, to get those. Now legally, we have a little bit more time than that, but our goal is December 31st.
And I would say, Mrs. Bitter, your concern about moving forward with phase one, we're not in any position right now to put something into the ground. It's going to be more of starting the site work. That's the more pressing need, is just getting the site work started. They can get mobilized, they can get heavy equipment out there. Timeframe wise, don't know, but from a urgency standpoint, that will further us is just being able to get that work started.
You can't do.
We can still have time to get the drawings done, get the decisions made. I think it's a kind of a balancing act of what can we get started? Because I think one of the first things we have to do is just, hate to say it, demolish the current fields. And that takes time, so.
All right, so, okay, so let's just repeat, because we said so much. We're going to go, Mr. Harris, you haven't said anything.
Oh, yeah, I think we need to go ahead with the plans, finish up those plans and everything and start moving on this project, so.
Not the three of you that are here. Are you comfortable with us finishing the drawings and also, because finishing the drawings will get us the pricing to move forward with phase one, regardless of anything else regardless of the financing options, once we finish that, we can bring you a price on phase one, a final price.
But, so you're not gonna get it for all three?
We are going to get a price for all three. I'm just saying, there's
phase one.
The drawings, I mean, I'm talking about
Right.
drawings. You will get drawings for all three.
for the full project. but
Okay, good.
We need those plans to be able to even just price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, so.
And we
I'm
might-
Sure, I'm not missing something. So then why did you phrase it like just phase one?
Because the urgency for us right now is moving forward with at least phase one.
Because when they draw it, they'll just say, okay, here's phase one real quick, and then they keep working, and then they do 2 and 3. I'm,
Draw all three phases.
okay,
And finish it, because that's what the plans are based on,
Yeah.
all three phases. The urgency is there are people that are donating that expect to see phase one move forward.
sure, but I think the three of us are saying we want all 3 phases.
I
So that
understand
seems
that.
more
No,
than.
I'm not.
I'm asking,
No,
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 the
not.
the drawing.
The drawings.
The drawing.
No, right.
That's all we're saying.
All I'm
Oh,
asking
we're
for
just
is,
about drawing.
but we have to see what that price
Price
is.
is, right.
For phase one, phase two, and
You're just
three.
saying-
And if you need to move something like electrical into phase one, then that's an option. But all that I'm saying is finish the drawings, come back to the board with what that price is. We've had an issue before where when we get to 100% drawings, the total amount is dramatically different, and we would have to have a discussion at that point. So I don't think I can't give approval until the 100% drawings with price estimate comes back.
Right, but don't you need it for all 3 phases?
They're doing all
Okay.
three.
All
But it's
right, very
going to
good.
be,
I'm good now.
Yeah,
That's all I need to know. I was confused by the
And would you
statement.
like me to move forward with getting a proposal for drawings for the scene shop?
Yes,
Okay,
and
bring those back.
fixing of repairing the door 18.
Okay.
Okay. So we have clarification?
Yep.
Good, that's
Yeah,
the
we'll
first step, and then,
bring everything back to you.
Yep.
But it sounds like, the most important thing for me is, it sounds like we're moving forward with phase one at least, which is, we're still finishing all 3 phases of plans, but when we come back to you, we're giving you the price for phase one because we've accomplished the goal of fundraising as long as the price
I'll look at.
meets those needs. Because I see your face, I know that you're.
I'm not giving you approval to start phase one until we see what that price tag is. If it comes back that this is reasonably close, then yes. If it comes back that there's another $1 million in there, I think we have to have a different discussion and have to see
That's,
how we're going to come up with the financing options. So for me, there's no approval.
Right. It's fair because you're right, because it says right now, we think it's 3.2, so we would have 2 and we would cover 900. If that is actually the case, then that would
That
do our
number comes back at
70-30.
5, we're gonna have to
There's
have
a
a
lot of
discussion.
scenarios.
I feel fairly
I think you're
I
good.
hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to move forward with this. Let's just get the drawings and,
Confirm.
none of us would start a personal project until you knew what you were putting into it.
We are as eager to get this done as you are.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the next item is a recognition of a donation to the baseball softball complex from the Sadler family.
Yeah, and they're here tonight and Randy and Melissa Sadler are here. and I just wanted to publicly recognize them because both Randy and Melissa and their family, their donation, one of the donations, making it possible for us to even have this dream come true. So I just wanted them to have a chance to meet the board and, they're very passionate about this project, and Mr. Sadler's very passionate, and so is Mr. Imhoff about, making sure that Mr. Hankey gets to see a game on this field. And we all love Mr. Hankey. He's such a historian and he has given so much to this district. This is one gift that we all want to see given back to him. And I know his passion is he can't wait to see the students play on these fields. So without the generosity of people like the Sadlers, this project could not have happened. So Randy and Melissa, on behalf of our team and the school board, I just want to say thank you for making this possible, and look forward to partnering and working with you throughout the process. Because I know, Randy, you've had some experience with this type of project, so we definitely want to tap into it.
Questions for me, or you want me to add any input?
Please.
So the first thing is, Steve got me involved in this 4 years ago. So we've been waiting 4 years for this day anyway. So here we are. My lovely wife Melissa said, give them some money so we can get started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's where we are right now, but we would like to get it started. Of course, we worked with Mark, and he's passed away, and we'd like to get more stuff done before we get more accidents and those kind of things. But I've built a baseball field, softball field, tennis complex up at my college, Earl College. So I'm familiar with this. So if I can re-put words in Chad's mouth, he's saying take those lights for the baseball field and put those into phase one. Do this. So absolutely, you need to do that. And I heard you guys say that would be smart. Our donation is a commitment over a long period of time based on how slow you guys are, you the school. If you're quicker, we'll get you the money quicker. It's a minimum donation. If we need to help with the lights, we'll help with the lights. Hurry up. Questions for me?
No, I just want to thank you. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be able to go forward on a project like this without your significant donation. So thank you to you and your wife and your family.
Did you know I went to school here and coached baseball here too?
I did, yes. But this gift is allowing, future generations of aviators to play baseball and softball and really enjoy their high school experience. And when you listen to all the national semi-merit finalists, they talked about their experience at the high school, and it was extracurricular activities and their peers and their coaches and their teachers. And, your gift is allowing that to continue, and we greatly appreciate
kids in the system right now. So.
Perfectly. Thank you. So thank you.
Mr. Sadler, I would like to say, you getting up here right now and speaking with us is very helpful. The more information that the board has, the better. I think Mr. Lewis is trying very hard to bring as much information as often as possible, and Mrs. Logan is working very, very hard, and we will diligently work on this. And really, this is very helpful, because I will just say, as a board member, I went and walked on the baseball field and softball fields. I played softball when I was growing up in high school. It was really helpful to go out there because we hear the things, but sometimes as board members, we don't do our business and, we don't have board meetings in the baseball fields. And I've been to it, but I don't go very often. So sometimes we just need to get filled in, and when items are brought to us, we try our very best to get up to speed. And I think you have our commitment. I mean, I think the board is very focused on this right now.
And I'm a finance guy. If I can help in any way, on the foundation for our Earl College, $500 million. I can help move numbers.
Look forward to talking.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Okay. We also have the Sycamore Athletic Booster Donation Agreement. Do I need to?
Nothing yet. I just want to, so Mr. Thomas is Booster's president this year, correct?
Yes.
So Mr. Thomas is a great colleague and friend to Sycamore Community Schools. He has been, he's not only a great friend and colleague, but he pushes at the right times when we need to be pushed. So, but he's also a forward thinker and he thinks outside the box. And he said, you know, how can the boosters continue to help support these projects that we want to finish? And he said, do you think the board would consider allowing us to extend our agreement of donation so that we can make this project happen? So I won't steal any more of his thunder. I'll let him give you the update from Monday's boosters meeting.
Sure. Appreciate the kind words. Like Mr. Sadler, Mr. Imhoff. I think I know a lot of faces in this room. I am an alumni of, former Coach Harris, now board member Harris. I'm a proud community member, Sycamore alumni, proud parent of 2 Sycamore aviators. And, we're in a situation now where, again, it's the optics of what people see in the community, right? When you look at the effort of the student athletes, they go to other facilities that are better than what we have. The question is why, right? When you have other parents come and make comments about why our facilities look the way they are, as it's related to softball and baseball, we hear, right? The community hears that. So as the president of the boosters, representing 300 Sycamore Athletic Booster members, voices of the community, Mike Thomas, who's been instrumental in, the efforts that have gone towards to get to where we are. Obviously, Mr. and Mrs. Sadler for the generous contribution and focus on this, and Mr. Helmhoff, 60+ years of wanting to make this happen. We had a meeting on Monday, and as you guys, I think, know, and if you don't, the Sycamore boosters, we're committed through 2035 currently of $50,000 a year. We voted to extend that to 2041, $50,000 a year, which will bring our total commitment through the community fundraising, voluntary work that we do to support our student athletes and our student community to roughly $1.19 million. We've already given donations of $85,000 to build the ticket entrance at the new stadium. We gave $15,000 to the Secret Auditorium, and we just gave $40,000 to finish the lockers at the field house. So our ask is to please consider phase 1, at least moving forward, we're breaking that ground, to do all the work that goes into making these facilities the way they need to be. What I would be remiss if I didn't say is that if it doesn't move forward, or at least the progress and perception that we're moving forward soon, the donations that could be potentially coming in, people that have committed dollars that want to see progress, I'm afraid that those may stop or slow. And then it goes into the point where the progress of this project just keeps getting pushed further and further down the road. So I'm a little biased. I have a daughter that just graduated. She's a freshman in Miami. She plays softball. My son's a sophomore, plays baseball, football. I want him to experience that. I want her, when she comes back, to support the teams, to be able to experience that. And I think everybody in this room who either is an alumni or has kids, or young kids that aspire to play in high school, they get a chance to experience that. And I have a letter that I drafted I can give to Superintendent Lewis, but we're committed to this Always an Aviator. We're very, very confident in our financial position as a boosters board. We have positive cash flow every year. It's from the result of everybody that volunteers their time. The pride that we have in Sycamore, the pride that we have in being alumni and those that have come into the district and seeing what Sycamore is all about. And that we don't see any issues in fulfilling our financial obligations. So we're going to extend another $300,000 to help ensure that phase 1 moves forward. So our ask to the board is that tonight, hopefully, with Chad, Mr. Lewis, our Superintendent Lewis, gave some figures that we feel like we are able to contribute through our donation to at least get to that point where we can move forward with breaking ground. So our ask is to please consider that. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, any shameless plugs for upcoming booster events that we all need to be aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot coming out. Mike's wife's going to send out some great information, but we have obviously our a lot of things. So the first thing is going to be our social event that's coming up. We have poker night, euchre night, which is a lot of fun. We have our golf event, which is huge. And then, we do, and we have, with the support of our new athletic director, which is Mr. Ovington, we do some really fun things on Friday nights at our football games. And it's the beginning of what we're doing across all phases of all sports, which is trying to build community. We are having a meeting on the 29th of this month with our youth programs because it's important for us to build that community with the little ones that come to the games and want to be on the field on Friday or want to be, on the basketball court, the softball field, or whatever it may be, in the pool. We're trying to connect with the youth, and that's something that we're doing. And it's important to me, having grown up here and gone to school and now living here, that we do that. We need to do things differently. And I think one of the things that we need to do differently is continue to have connection with the board, through our community, so that we can move forward with things that, projects like this, that again, when people see these things moving forward in progress, it creates momentum. We just need to make sure that momentum continues. So a lot more to come. Thank you.
I just want to thank you on behalf of the board. I mean, the boosters, they have stepped up every time for athletic facilities. It is a very hardworking group of parents that are in concession stands almost every night in the fall and the spring. And then giving that money, donating it back to our facilities to help our student athletes. But it's more than our student athletes. Like you said, it's our community, the impact it has on our community, the impact it has on all of us as property owners as well. Continuing to bring people into the districts. This is just one key, very key, important aspect of that. So please go back to the boosters at your next meeting and thank them on behalf of the board for their continued generous donation.
And I would also like to say that I can read all of your faces and I can see that you've worked very hard and that you're ready for this to move forward. And I think that the board hears you. I think that we are committed to moving forward, getting these drawings, finding out how to make this move forward. We just need now to make a decision and we need our full board here to do that. But I feel like we have been working very hard with our treasurer and with our superintendent to understand the remaining needs of the district. And we just finished, right, a massive $127 million project for our school district. And it's not that you're not leased. You're kind of at the end, but you're not leased and it's a very important thing. Those fields are very important and so is the scene shop and so is door 18. All of it's important. It just happens to be the timing. But now here we are and the board will take care of the facility. This district will always make sure that the facilities are the way they should be. And you have our commitment to that.
Appreciate that. And one thing, you bring up a good point. I passed over on it. When we talked to the board meeting on Monday, it's unfortunate that softball and baseball seems to be last in line, right? And you hear a lot of things is, why did we do the football field? Why are we doing, the new lacrosse? It is what it is, right? It's the so what now mentality. So what now? Now what are we doing? And we're here tonight to at least express to you guys that we are committed to helping any way we can. The only thing that we have is a contingency in here, but the contingency is no different than what we've had in the past, which is to continue to involve us in anything that has to do with the athletics and the facilities, because we contribute dollars and we want to continue to do that. So just continue to allow us to be present with that and continue to do what you already do, which is give us clear and accurate reporting on things that are going on so that we can go back to the community and we know what our target is. So that's really where we are. So thank you guys.
I do want to point out just one other thing on this topic, just because they're sitting here, like Mr. Imhoff and the other Mr. Thomas. Stand up real quick, just Mike, I don't know if they know you as well as they know Mr. Imhoff, but these two gentlemen have really spearheaded, and Steve has been doing it. He was doing it alone for a while and then I think he probably talked Mike into joining forces, and Mike he's a private business owner here in the community, and he really took control of a lot of our marketing, a lot of our, trying to find ways to connect with the community, and that's his expertise. And, we needed a fresh perspective, and Mike brought that to us, and we really appreciate all your work. And I know that takes you away from your business, but that didn't change your commitment, and we appreciate that. And Steve, I don't think we can ever say thank you enough for how much you put into not only this project, but just in the district in general. And, I see Mr. Imhoff at the soccer game last night, it was so much fun to just connect and always be here, supporting our student athletes and our staff. And that's what everyone sees from Steve is they always feel that unconditional support. So I just wanted you to know these. I know you know Steve, but I wanted you to meet Mike because he's going to continue to be integral in our team of people that are really passionate about furthering not only our athletic facilities, but just our athletics in general. So thank you, Mike. Really appreciate that.
One last thing, let me ask and get clarity, because I want to report back to the community, to our boosters members. What I heard is that if the phase one budget has not changed drastically, we feel like we've met that 70% mark to move forward. We're going to get the update of what phase one looks like. And if it has not changed, then I guess, for everybody on the board, it's here minus 2 members. The expectation is to then potentially move forward with phase one. Am I correct in that?
I will say that the board has already committed itself to the 70-30 scenario if it reaches it. However, I want to add the caveat that we might not choose that version. Our treasurer is going to decide and give us options. That doesn't mean that the version, I mean, we will be doing 70-30, but we might finance it differently than providing the money. But we need options for how we as a board decide to pay that, right? That's how we're
talking about phase one, but if things are what we think, then there's a good chance that am I skating around this well enough?
if the number is what it is, then yes, absolutely. We have to just be careful because we have had many times, believe us, we've had so many times where we get the drawings and the
I would
numbers
say that
have increased so
there
much.
is significant interest in moving forward. Until we actually cast a vote, I don't think we can.
And we may
sit here and
not,
say
yeah.
how I'm going to vote or anything like that, but there is significant interest in moving forward.
And we've all expressed, but we've already expressed I think we have already expressed, all 5 of us, that we agree with the 70-30 model. It was a past practice of the board and this board agreed to that. So just knowing that, I mean, that's not a vote. That's just what we have said.
Just to make sure I'm correct. Thank you, guys.
Steve?
Thank you.
Yes.
And that doesn't reinforce one thing you said as well too. I think the moment really is now. There is so much hunger in the community to see ground growth. And I think even as we're doing so much work talking to people, I think once we see anything starting to happen on the field, floodgates will open. If we don't see something happen soon, the people are going to draw back. Whatever option we choose, I love that we're looking at the bigger picture. I think that's the right thing. Whatever option we choose, if it doesn't start something now, we're going to lose momentum. So I just would encourage phase one, showing some progress on the field.
We hear you. We hear you. We see you. We got the message. We have it. Thank you. We appreciate that. No, it's good. Mr. Imhoff?
So thank you for the kind words. But you can see, I feel blessed with all that, knowing this guy all my life. And he and his wife are just unbelievable. I can't express that enough. I'm not going to talk long because we get a couple minutes for the Elvis thing, but overtime. These people who have a mic on board is just been a boost. So I just feel truly blessed to be here. I thank everybody who's making this happen. So,
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. It's a very positive conversation, so thank you. All right. We are now going to have a discussion about the kindergarten start date. Do I need a motion or we don't need a motion? So
Not voting.
I have a discussion as a board first and then we will have our public participation regarding that. Okay. Mr. Lewis.
Just a refresher. We've talked about this over the course of the last couple of years, but really specifically, we brought it as a recommendation to the board a meeting ago, and we specifically said it's important when we make these large decisions or large recommendations that we consider feedback from our community. So I'm excited that there are community members here tonight to speak because this is all of our community. It's all of our decision, and we do need to hear from our stakeholders. So thank you for being here, and we truly excited to hear from you. Just a refresher on why we had the discussion. Why are we having this discussion? Why is this important? Talking with our staff members, specifically our early grades teachers, they have a significant concern about some of the students that they're seeing come into our school district, especially with our school calendar and when we start school. During construction, we were starting school late August, which meant that you could have a 4-year-old start kindergarten and they would turn 5 by September 30th. Little, just again, just a different time frame, different mindset. Now we're starting school again, back with what was the normal schedule, and it was hard for people to readjust back to that normal schedule, but it's around August 15th or even maybe a couple days before that. Because we're blessed to have air conditioning in our district and we don't have to worry about, those early start dates. We can start pretty much anytime. But what we were seeing from our teachers is that they're very concerned about the 4-year-olds coming into kindergarten. And what happens is you might not see the deficits in kindergarten, but if they're off track already entering kindergarten, those deficits continue to grow. And when they get into 2nd and 3rd grade, the deficit becomes so large that kids become frustrated. Teachers become frustrated. And it's hard to correct it at that point. And there isn't great research out there about retainment that says that retaining a student is going to benefit that student. The research is earlier intervention. And for us, earlier intervention means maybe it would have been better for that student not to start early. Certainly we understand the financial impact to families because I understand for some families that might mean another year of preschool, another year of daycare, whatever the case may be. But when we started looking at this and having these conversations over a year ago, we were looking not only at what we think is best educationally, we were talking with our education professionals. And they are in complete agreement and support that moving to an August 1st cutoff of students entering into kindergarten would be beneficial. And I'll just refresh your memory. We talked about some of the districts that have made that move. Lakota, Mason just moved last year. Loveland, Mount Healthy, Forest Hills, Milford, Edgewood, West Claremont, Hamilton. Kings is looking to move this year, and then Lebanon. And some of those are comparable districts. We compare ourselves very well, I would say, to Lakota, Mason, Loveland, Forest Hills, Milford, and Kings are some of our comparables. Some of our other comparables are in the September 30th cutoff. Madeira, Indian Hill, Wyoming, Princeton, and Marymount. So again, I can't speak for those schools because I don't know if they're considering a move or not. But what we're seeing as a trend in education is trying to see those 4-year-olds not make that jump that early and to wait a year. I know I spoke to you about my own child. My child would have met the cutoff either way. But again, I ask myself, educationally and emotionally, is my student ready for kindergarten? The answer for me was no. So my son will actually be 18 entering his senior year because I felt that was best for him. There are families that are holding kids back athletically. I'm not going to make a recommendation based on athletics. Athletics are a great thing. It's a great support to students' education, but my recommendation to you is academically. One of the comments that had come up from a board member, and unfortunately she is not here tonight, but she wanted me to share with the board, and I know Mrs. Bitter and I had this conversation earlier today. It's not if, but when. I do believe that this recommendation needs to go through. If the board feels more comfortable that we need to wait a year so that our community is ready for the change, that's an option that you certainly consider. It is your policy that needs to be changed. So we can only make recommendations. The board has to decide what they think is best. I do believe that it should be changed. I do believe we've had enough conversation. But if we have not done a good enough job informing our community and getting word out and making them feel engaged in the change, then I have no issue with us waiting a year to implement. But I do think no matter what, we are going to upset someone in a year where they're making that plan to enter into kindergarten. This year, if we would have implemented it for this school year, we were at 37 students that would have been impacted. I believe that we've calculated and it's close to 50 next year. I don't know if people that would enter into, and we did it by fiscal year, so let's say fiscal year 26 next year. I don't know if people have already planned for 2 years from now, but at some point, I do believe we need to make a decision and what we believe is best academically for our students. So happy to answer any questions. Mr. Lovell has been very involved with this discussion as well as Ms. Lawson, and any of us are happy to answer your questions.
So would there be still the option of testing it?
There is always the option of testing it.
And is there, if a parent, let's say they took the test, didn't meet the criteria, is there an appeal process? Is there a next step, or is that the determining factor?
I don't know. That's a good question. Have we ever had an appeal process for that component? I'll look back at Becky as well.
There it is. I researched it. They can appeal to you.
I was going to say, unfortunately, Kelly Wegner retired and she was the one that went through that process, but I believe there was an appeal process. I just wasn't engaged in that, so.
And I have never had an appeal in my 4 years as superintendent, but doesn't mean there couldn't be a first, right? So.
I'm curious to know, Mrs. Lawson, your opinion on this. Do you think do you have a view of if it's beneficial for us to do it sooner rather than later? It would have any impact on, because our teachers right now are going through so much with new curriculum on English language, ELA and math and other things, and gifted services and dyslexia. So do you have any feeling like what impact that would it be of great benefit to do it sooner rather than later? Like, do you have any feel for that?
Good question. I think my opinion would be contingent upon the level of discussion that has taken place on this topic in the previous school year. My impression is that this has been an ongoing conversation, but I'm not privy to the level of information that has reached our families. And so I think, considering that along with listening to our practitioners and the important feedback that we get from them, they're doing incredible work with kids every day, and they have such expertise. So I know that this is important to decide, but I don't know that I'm equipped to offer you an opinion regarding timeline.
Yeah, I look at it in two ways. I understand the family's either financial commitment or childcare issues or employment issues around having a child at home for another year. That's certainly something that this board has to take into consideration. But I also look at the 50 kids that this could impact their education and make significant impact to their education over the course of their life or the course of the next 13 years at Sycamore. So to me, the harm in pushing it back would be what is the negative impact on their education? And I know we don't know that specifically today, but that's something that I will take into
Well,
mind.
that's what I was trying to.
When we have this discussion and make this decision, is what's the negative,
Well, I could have asked the same question to you.
No, I think the other commitment that I would make is that I do believe between now and, again, when the board feels equipped to make the decision, we could certainly, and I know we've talked about this in a previous meeting, we want our administrators, we want our teachers, we want our preschool teachers talking about this and kind of opening up some forums for parents to come to kind of learn about what this isn't just like, hey, I'm really interested in changing a policy because it's fun to change policy. This is, we do believe educationally sound wise, this is the best decision for our school district. We're seeing students come in off track and the gap widening for them. And we have data to show that. This is a data-based long term.
My question is more, I just want to, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. Everything you're saying makes complete sense to me. And I think developmentally, I have a pretty strong personal experience with my own children because they have developmental delays. So I'm very familiar with what happens to a child when they're not reaching their developmental milestone and then they're in education. And then the intervention that's required to try to get somebody on track. And it's a lot. So you don't have to sell me on that. What I just need to know is how much of what's the, is there, okay, I understand, explaining it to the community is very important, right? That's why we've asked every time anything comes up regarding this, we've asked last year, we asked, this year we asked. My question is more, can you give us like 50 kids is a lot, right? That's what I was trying to say, of the impact on, we have a lot going on right now.
10% of a class. Let's put that in perspective.
I know.
That's 10% of the kindergarten class.
How much do you feel we should? I realize you're being very respectful to say, if the board feels like we need to wait 1 year, that's fine, potentially, but how strongly do you feel that it should occur sooner?
I mean, I feel strongly because I'm hearing it from our teaching staff.
Okay.
This is the best thing to do. So I'm representing their interests as well as what I think is best for our youngest, most vulnerable learners. I know not every parent's going to agree with me, and maybe there's, and again, I haven't talked about this with my team. I would need to talk with the team because I don't make decisions in a vacuum by myself, but maybe there's an intermediate step between, so let's just, and I'm Mrs. Tompkins, you can give me a thumbs down if you hate my idea. But my thought process would be, if we need an intermediate step for some of the parents that, because there are going to be some parents that might be okay with understanding that that's a change and my child's not ready. And I don't know about our people in the crowd. They might be on their second or third child. And usually research shows that second or third child might be ready more than a first child. But maybe there's an intermediate step there where and I'll say in 2 school years, this is the cutoff. Unless you test in, this is the cutoff, and we communicate that loud, far, and wide. For next school year, we are changing the cutoff, but if you feel strongly as a parent that you believe your kid is ready, then you can send them and we will admit your child based on your recommendation as a parent. We as educators would not agree with that and probably recommend not to. But again, I can't look at, and I'm going to look at you because you're looking at me. I can't look at his child walking in here and say, they're not ready for kindergarten or they are, because we would have to go through the initial screening, see what skills they have, see if they're ready. And they might be beautifully ready to start kindergarten and no issues. But I think that might be an intermediate step.
Also, there's 50, so let's say 50 students, so it impacts 50. It might be that only 5 parents say, no, I don't want that, I want my kid to go, and then you go through the process. That's not that high of a number, actually, so that really wouldn't be.
I like the idea, and that's what that's why I asked the question about the appeal. Is there a way that we can allow parents to come justify why they feel their kid's ready? I don't know that I would be for just saying whoever wants their kid to come early can do it without any discussions at the district level. I think there should be, put the onus on the parents to come, justify on why they think their kid's ready. I would like to see us, have some kind of process to allow that to happen, to if we do say August 1st for next year, for a one-time only, to allow some parent input to, for whatever kids that they think they may be ready. I just wouldn't say Karsplang, whoever wants to come August 1st,
Yeah.
Can I,
Tompkins is giving me a head nod, so.
can I jump in really quick? So there are 2 board policies that guide this. There's JEB and JEBA. JEB is the policy which we have attached right now, of talking about the actual date that you have to be 5 on or before. JEBA is the process that guides early entrance to kindergarten. So if we chose to suspend that policy, that policy would have to be revisited in order for us to make any type of change to the process. If we were to say, okay, we're going to
Something we
change
can do.
JEB. Yeah, absolutely. The second part of what I was going to say is that I am in no way saying that I want to rush this or get this done. Obviously, we've had these conversations. We had them last year. It's been brought up in years previous. In order for this to happen this year, we need a second read and approval by the November 6th board meeting. That's the reason we started this a little bit early. So I just want to make sure that the board is clear that yes, whatever discussions we need to have those and we need to vet and we need to be honoring the conversation. But if we don't have a vote by November 6th, then we need to push this another year.
And October 30th is the one right before that. So that would have to be first read.
Correct. Yep. So we need first read on October 30th and then the second and final approval on November 6th. And the reason for the community to understand that from an operational perspective is that we are launching kindergarten registration at that time. And last year, we learned through a lot of conversation that we needed to get ahead of this and make sure we're communicating with our daycares and everybody ahead of time. That was related to half-day kindergarten, but this is related to this.
My issue with just saying not for 2 years, I understand we have to communicate to the community. And I'm not making light of anybody's personal situation. There's always going to be that group next year and the following year and the following year. So if we can somehow, put this in policy, but have that process for parents to come to us, whether it's suspending JEBA or also modifying JEBA to allow an appeals process, that's what I would like to see.
Am I out of order? Just, I know these parents are here just to say something about it. Can we before we get too deep into this and everything,
Yeah, we will definitely have.
honor their time,
Yeah, yeah.
give them a chance to speak?
And before you speak, just so I can make sure I want to say one thing. Dr. James asked me to say that a few parents reached out to her as well. I don't know if it was the three of you, but 3 parents reached out to her to ask if we were to make a decision to make this change, to make it in 2026 and not 2025. So I want to say that to the board right now. Okay, so we have public participation on this. First person will be Lisa Crane. Yes, please. And you have, so you can stand, sit, however you like, and 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Crane. I want to preface my comments by saying that I am not opposed to the change in policy, but I do have concerns about the implementation. My son is a preschool student who has thrived in the integrated classroom at Sims. By May, he will have completed 2 full years in Sycamore's preschool. I don't know if he'll be ready for kindergarten yet. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But it's not currently clear what additional benefits a 3rd year of the same half-day preschool curriculum with younger peers will provide for him. If he can't go to kindergarten next year with his peers, as he have been anticipating, and there's no plan for kids like him, we may have to take him out of the Sycamore ecosystem for a gap year and then plop him back in, which seems like an unnecessary and disruptive transition for him. It's also unclear whether we'll be able to find an appropriate environment that will challenge him to grow and also account for his special needs in the way that Sycamore can. The strategic plan states that the district will provide dynamic communications in multiple forms that reach all stakeholders in meetings. Until the email that went out this morning, the district had not made any organized effort to reach out to the approximately 40 to 50 families who will bear the financial, logistical, and educational burdens of this decision. No postcards to district residents, no announcements in local bulletins, no social media posts, and no notice on the kindergarten. So, community preschools and kindergartens are already enrolling for next fall, and some have wait lists. Parents don't have much time to make an informed decision about what programs will meet our children's needs. And families that have planned for their kids to complete preschool this spring and enter kindergarten in the fall may not have budgeted for a surprise additional year of preschool daycare or staying out of the workforce to stay. They have been workforced to be a stay-at-home parent. So I want to ask that you consider 3 things. The first would be to defer the effective date to the 2026 to 2027 school year. And during that time, make a concerted effort to get the word out to families well in advance. This would be a meaningful way to help Sycamore families prepare for this change financially, logistically, and educationally. 2, if not, let families opt into kindergarten with evidence of basic kindergarten readiness and a teacher recommendation, rather than having to go through the accelerated entry process, which seems to require that your kid can write symphonies at age 4. Or number 3 would be to offer a transitional kindergarten section for kids who fall into that gap, from which they could either graduate to regular kindergarten or 1st grade, depending on their development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crane.
Thank you. Okay. Next is Tony Magner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Magner. I'm a high school administrator at a local district, and I'm a proud parent of a third grader and a first grader at Blue Ash Elementary. And we'll have two more children coming through Sycamore Schools very soon. My wife and I couldn't be happier with Sycamore Schools, and we are very grateful for your all's leadership. I wanted to speak on the proposal to change the kindergarten cutoff date from September 30th to August 1st for the following school year. If I may, I would like to discuss briefly our situation because I think it is a situation that applies to many other families as well. We currently have a 4-year-old, Henry, who will turn 5 on August 7th. Henry has been in daycare since he was 12 weeks old. This was an investment that my wife and I had made for Henry and for all of our children to ensure they receive the social, emotional, and academic skills to be ready for kindergarten. When Henry turned 4 in August, we transitioned him from his daycare facility to a new preschool, one that was more expensive, but also one that we knew did an amazing job of preparing its students academically for kindergarten, such as learning to recognize and write all of his letters. We made the decision to spend this extra money for Henry's last year of preschool to ensure he is ready for kindergarten. Many families are similar to ours in that they have planned in advance and already enrolled their child into a quality preschool to prepare for kindergarten. If these children cannot attend kindergarten, yes, it will cause a very real and difficult financial strain, but more importantly, it will cause a disruption in our child's education. Henry would have successfully completed the preschool program, but he would be forced to complete the program again, which I think we can all agree is not what is best for Henry. Again, I bring up my family's specific situation because it does apply to others as well. While I understand all the reasons to move the cutoff date for kindergarten from September 30th to August 1st, I would like to recommend a couple suggestions to the board. One would be to wait to make the cutoff change to the 2026-27 school year. That way, parents will have time to decide what type of preschool to enroll their 4-year-olds in. And so families like mine, who have already enrolled their child in a strong preschool program, do not get stuck. If it is not possible to wait until the 26-27 school year, my suggestion is to be flexible with early entrance waivers this upcoming year. I looked online about the current process, and it is rightfully pretty intense, including an IQ test, assessment, a student interview, etc. I totally understand this for children not turning 5 until October, November, and December. Those students should show strong giftedness to start kindergarten early. But for students with an August or September birthday, especially this year, if the cutoff change goes into effect, I would recommend a simpler process for families to show that they have prepared their student via a quality preschool program or in the child's home. For children with summer birthdays, it is a very challenging and intimate decision to send the child to kindergarten early or to hold them back. As a family with 4 kids with summer birthdays, we know that it is truly a case-by-case decision. And I would just ask the board to help ensure that we are letting parents make that decision for their children, as long as they can articulate why their child is ready. Thank you very much for your time. And again, thank you all for all that you do for our students and the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Logan, did you say we had?
Have one
Just one more.
And it's Jennifer Grossman, is it Jones? Yes, Jennifer Grossman Jones.
Hi, I'm Jenny Grossman Jones. I graduated from Sycamore. I went all throughout kindergarten to graduated in 2006 and went on to boarding school. For a number of years with my husband, also a Sycamore grad. And I moved back. I started working in a recycling business. And our daughter, our eldest daughter, is in 2nd grade at Montgomery Elementary. She is very personal issue with me because she happened to be a September birthday. We looked at her and we were fortunate to be able to make the decision. She was ready to go to kindergarten as a 4-year-old. She's now a 2nd grader and she's doing well. And when I talked to her about what I was doing tonight, I said, how did you feel about moving to kindergarten as a 4-year-old? And she said to me, well, I felt good because I felt like I was smart enough. And I think that that is something that can't be understated. If the child also feels like they're ready and planning to go to kindergarten, they're 4. They're little people and they know what they're supposed to be doing. And I just wonder if she would have been able to thrive the way that I see her thriving, my husband sees her thriving and reaching her potential. And he's like, well, you're going to stay at preschool for another year, which is fine, but I don't know what the benefit is. So I guess my position is a little bit different than some have the cutoff date at September 30th is the district more attractive. Because it allows parents to have that decision. State of Ohio says that the student must be 5 years old by the date you enter kindergarten. Districts choose between September 30th or August 1st. And I think that it makes it more attractive because parents have more choice. Parents have more flexibility to make those important decisions for their children. And with there's more choice, I think that makes the district overall more attractive to families. I think that this is a really important decision. I think that there's some very important considerations that the other parents have brought up, which are financial considerations. Another year of preschool can be $10,000. Mom or dad has chosen not to work until children go to school. That's a lot more than $10,000. This economy, this moment is pretty challenging for a lot of people in the district. Groceries are high, everything is high, so I think the community that I also like to see in my travels in the district last few years, I've worked cheerleading, all of the kids that I've seen who have August and September birthdays, not all of them. I've run across like 3 other young kindergartners. So I'm just wondering, what is the impact? What is the true benefit? If there's a lot of people who are looking at their children and saying, I think you do benefit from a preschool. So what is the benefit of taking away the choice for just a few parents? So what's the data for those young kindergartners between August and September who are starting off track, staying off track?
That's your time. I don't mind extending if that is okay with the other board members, but that was your 3 minutes.
Do you need more time?
I think that the last part of this is just the collaboration. And that would be helpful in understanding what the data actually is. Trust the word. Honestly, when we put our children into the Sycamore schools to start the education process, I think that the word is to trust parents to know their children, to make the right decision for them, to let them be as free as possible to make those decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But what I want to say, I've noticed, I've been on this board for 3 years, and I would say whenever we make any decision on changes, I feel like we should always just count on a minimum of a 2-year advance. And I think that you have done that, Mr. Lewis. I don't know, but I think maybe we could consider an area of improvement for ourselves to figure out a process where we're really communicating that more often, right? Because we have, clearly, this is something that is deeply important to everyone here, to our teachers, to our administrators, to everyone. So it is a huge decision. It's a really big thing. It's not something small. It's not something to be taken lightly. If there is, ever a decision like this again, let's just keep talking about it, even 2 years. Let's plan that. I would say, I just want to throw this out there that we really consider always like a 2-year lead time. And I think we kind of do that anyhow, like with our calendars and with almost everything we've done. But how do we, like, even if we said, okay, we're going to do this in 2026, what do we need to do now in order to blast it out there and get that information out there sooner? Those are all valid points. I mean.
Yeah, I agree. They're all valid points, but I think the decision is now, how do we, if we're going to do this time is of the essence on bringing it back to the board for the next meeting for a policy review. I'm personally okay with bringing it back to the board at the next meeting for policy. I completely agree that there needs to be some flexibility or some option for those children that have that August to September birthday for this coming school year, so that, we can have the input of the parents and have them, come to us and justify, explain, why they feel their child is ready for school. The parents know their kids better than, at that point, better than we do. So, I'm okay with bringing the policy back for a read. But ultimately, I feel we either need to change policy JEBA or suspend that policy for next year. I don't think it should be this super hard thing if your birthday's in August for next year, to have to go through this entire huge process to get tested in and whatnot. It's my opinion.
As far as the data, I think that's a very compelling question. Just to give you a brief example of what the data has shown, is for the kindergarten readiness assessment previous school year, roughly 50 students came to us with their early birthday, and about 20 of those 50, their results indicate that they were off track.
That's almost 50%. 50% of them were off track. Okay, that's significant.
It's a data point.
Yeah. I will say that I think of the two groups of school districts that you compared, one that stays with September 30th and one that stays with August 1st, we compare more to the September 30th cohort, I think. Indian Hill, Madeira, Marymount. I think those school districts are in our list of comparable districts. So just there's that, and that would offer more flexibility. I do think we're just gonna have, I mean, it may be that we have to find the 20, if that happens, the 20, how do we know, how do we make it so that the 20 that aren't ready don't go? And if the 30 that are, go, right? I feel like the standards, if we have to get an IQ test to come, I think that's too high of a burden on families to have to do that.
That's the current.
Yeah.
Right.
That seems
So we can-
really.
So
that
we can
seems tough.
revise, what we're talking about is revising
That would be
that JV.
huge.
Here's
Or spending it for next year.
as a board, I don't think you want to get into telling us as administrators and teachers what tests to give to enter. Your decision is whether or not the dates, it's just, that's your policy.
But that's kind of what we're doing if we were suspended a policy though. Because why also?
I think and I want to thank the three of you that spoke. You've eloquently spoke about some great options that I think I can go back and talk with the team to kind of wrap a bow around this, to bring you some recommendations from our team after we talk as educators and talk with our teachers about what do they think? Because I think there's an intermediate step here. There isn't anything that needs to be hard and fast. I think several of you spoke about things that are very, in my mind, impactful. And I could easily say, yes, 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 because of what I heard. Now I would have to see some more information, but you have all made the right steps to prepare your children, especially you having it being not your first child. The research usually shows that next child is ready. So I think there's some intermediate steps that you all eloquently spoke about that we can consider along with things that we're thinking to, I think, find a happy medium. I will say we do our best to communicate. We recognize that not very many people log in and check out a board meeting. So it's hard when we have these conversations for people to say, well, you didn't inform us. We talk about them every meeting. If you choose not to inform yourself by watching the meeting, it's tough. And it's hard to get in contact with parents that are not in the school district. We actually have to use some other tools to get the addresses of kids that we believe might be entering into kindergarten to send out information. So I do know that a mailing was sent out, whether or not we 100% got every single one of them right. I can't eloquently speak and say, yes, we did that, but I know we sent something out trying to inform our community, but we are always on a continuous improvement mindset. So, we want our community to feel informed about what we are doing. And we certainly want to make sure that we're not harming children in the process of trying to make impactful changes. So really appreciate all three of you. We certainly can work within, I think, the desire of what we would like to do from a policy standpoint, but also a process standpoint to make sure that students and families that want to make that choice can make that choice to move forward. So I know you've sat through a long night and we really appreciate all of you sticking with us till we got to this point. But I will promise you by next meeting, we will have a little bit of a change or a wrinkle to the recommendation based on your feedback. I'm curious, where are you, principal?
No, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for your service because we all know what you worked through.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the state report card update.
Wonderful.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Lawson so I don't use any more words. Let her go.
Mrs. Tompkins gonna assist.
Yes. As someone who is,
You.
so wherever you like, want to sit in the front row there? Yeah, I've got a chair here as well. We've got options for you. That's your choice. Okay. Well, wonderful. As someone who is new to the district, it was deeply inspiring to take a deep dive into our report card data. And it is even more inspiring to spend time in our schools and seeing what's happening in classrooms every day. So I just want to take a moment to celebrate this Sycamore community and all of the staff and the students and our families and all of the hard work that goes into results that you see here, and also into raising good humans. So let's go ahead and quickly get into it. I'll try to be as succinct as possible. How incredibly exciting to have received that 5-star rating, which shows that we have significantly exceeded the state standards. And I will unpack for you what that entails. So these are the components of the report card. There are 5 components. There's, well, technically there's 6, but there's only 5 that are calculated. And so I'll talk about that at the end. We have achievement, progress, graduation, early literacy, and gap closing. And I think what is important to point out here when you look at this pie is that achievement and progress make up a larger portion of that calculation more than any other of the components. So you're going to hear me say yay a lot because we have yay 5 stars a lot, which is very exciting. We have significantly exceeded the state's standard in achievement. And let me show you more about what comprises achievement. If you look at the points column there, you'll see a couple things to point out there. One, you'll see advanced plus, and you might wonder, like, what does advanced plus mean? How can you be even more advanced than advanced? Well, according to the state, as far as how we receive credit for the incredible learning our students do, our students who are gifted identified, who are also accelerated in their content, you receive a little boost in your achievement. So let's say, you know, I'm a 5th grade student taking 6th grade math and a gifted identified, like then there's 1.3 for that calculation. So just a little bit of a boost. But what I also like to name for you is if you look at the bottom where it's untested, limited, basic, the distance between those numbers is more significant than it is when you get into proficient, accomplished, advanced, and advanced plus. And I think you're going to see that play out a little bit in the numbers. So just wanted to point out that they give you, as far as the distance and the growth, they give you more credit for growing students who are performing at a lower level. But you still get more credit for students in the achievement when you see that 1.3 or 1.2, 1.1. So here is our trend data. You can see it's very exciting to see that growth from 2020 to 2021, 22, 23. So we've grown by that 0.2 in the performance index trends, but also just to give you a little bit of orientation around deeper historical data, that puts us about 0.2 below where the district was at pre-pandemic performance levels.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so prior to COVID, we were performing closer to 105.6. But when you look at the data across the state, to see this level of stride happening this quickly in our district is quite notable for us to be where we are, and much to be celebrated there. I'm going to point out the indicators, but I also want to make a quick note that it used to be that the state report card, the achievement component, was actually based off of indicators, meaning that the percentage of your students that are proficient or above. Now they'll name the indicators for you and they'll show you this data, but it's strictly based off of that calculation that I showed you in the performance index. So you don't get any kind of special kind of credit for where your indicators fall. It's all based off of the numbers from that first slide. But I still think it's important for you to be able to see, these are the percentages of our students who are performing at proficient or above. Okay, and previously when indicators were calculated, you needed to be at an 80% or higher in order to have been considered meeting that indicator. So you can, make note of some things that are interesting to notice in this data, and we can talk about that a little bit further. Now we get into 7th and 8th grade in high school. Great data to make note of there. And then here's a view for you so you can see the proficiency 2022-23 school year, and then in this last school year. What I've made note of for you in that last column is where we've seen gains in our proficiency levels. Those are highlighted for you in green. And anything that's not highlighted in green, it's maintained growth, close to having maintained growth, or perhaps we are in the negative.
Ms. Lawson, is it fair to say, because the assessments change every year, correct? So I mean, looking at the data across, it's not the same cohort, it's not the same test, correct?
Yes, so something that I think is important to note, thank you for saying. So Mrs. Tompkins and I spoke on this before the meeting tonight, is there's lots of ways to look at this data. But one thing that you can make note of is, you know, if you're looking at third grade ELA in 2022-23, if you wanted to follow cohort data, the same group of students, right, you can then allow your eyes to move down to fourth grade ELA and then in that second column. So you could see as an example, the third graders were at 88% proficiency or above in 2022-23. And then as fourth graders, you see them at that 90.8. So that's an important view to take. Another thing that I think is just important to note when you look at this data, and I'll try to be succinct about this, is there are such incredible things happening in our classrooms. This data is information for us as a system, and how do we support the excellent teaching that we know is happening in classrooms every day. And often it's about systems of support, reviewing our curriculum, and how do we support our hardworking staff. And so I just think that that's important to make note of, because this data can feel very personal to really hardworking teachers who are doing amazing things for our students every day.
I think one to call out up there, and I heard Mr. Ballant mention it before
I'm just gonna steal my thunder.
Go for it, go.
You know, just, and I don't know what I'm guessing you're talking about geometry, Mr. Lewis. You know, geometry, since I've been on the board, has always been an issue, not just at Sycamore, but across the state. So it's not that this is something that only Sycamore was having struggles with. We were always close to the top, but the top was a low number. And I think that's really, when I looked at this, and I was talking to Mrs. Lawson before the meeting, like that was a number that stood out to me, like, wow. We're continuing to make strides, because if you look at even the 21-22 or the 20-21 school year, that number was less than 74. So we're continuing to see growth in geometry, which is just phenomenal. So, you know, Mrs. Lawson and I were talking, kind of like she said, there's a lot of great things on this data as well, and a lot of accomplishments to call out for our entire staff and teachers.
Absolutely. I think 6.1% growth is very significant. And truly anything at 2 or above is statistically quite significant. So another call out would be, you know, the 8th grade math. You see 4th grade ELA there.
And I also really
biology.
Like, again, it's different cohorts, like we said, but if you continue down, and I was just doing like ELA, 88 to 87, that's pretty close. 87 to 93, 90 to 90. Again, I'm looking at this 92 to 91. I mean, there's significant growth. You might see slight negative comparing cohorts, but if you follow the cohort, it shows significant growth in all areas. A lot of different ways to look at this data.
Yeah. Well, every number has a name and every name has a story. And
Correct.
so continuing to dig deeper into how we might work together as a community of practice is quite important. Let's quickly transition to progress. So now we're moving out of achievement levels and into the amount of growth that we've been able to make. Yay, 5 stars. It's very exciting. So let me show you the chart that's defining the progress for us, and just quickly talk you through the key at the bottom. So anything that's dark gray, that is showing significant evidence that we've exceeded the student growth expectations by a large magnitude. Light blue would have been significant evidence. Green is that we've met the student growth expectations. And then anything underneath that would be either, so light gray, it means that it wasn't measured. So if you look at science, you know, they don't have consecutive tests, which is why they can't offer that kind of data to us. And then you do see some red as well. So something for us to be thinking about, how do we support our talented staff? I also just want to make note, there seems to be a good amount of green there for ELA overall. I know that we did go through the ELA course of study process last year. We are in the first year of implementation. And so And then continuing to support staff with our curriculum and, our systems of support for staff and students and professional learning.
And I know you already do this. I mean, we don't just look at the great things on this data. We're looking at areas where we need to improve as well. And to me, that's a bigger takeaway of diving into the data, not just to celebrate, which we have to take time. We have to pause and celebrate the great things, but also dive into the data. And I'm just calling it out because it's up there. Fifth grade math, what improvements can we make? And I know you guys do this in order to make sure that we're meeting that progress.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So why does it do, like all tests, like what is the function? of
So
all
in
test
that,
section?
in that final column, that would be in general for all grades or for that entire grade level, what would they say is our level of growth? And where I think that gets a little bit confusing for people is like, how would we be red if we were green, red, green, and then it's red? What that shows you is if we have an area that's red, but then we have an area that's darker, or it's a green color, green versus red, that the growth was so significant in those other subjects that it actually caused the color to change because it basically counterbalanced, right, or over superseded. I'm choosing my adjectives correctly, but that would be, I might describe that. Because I wondered the same thing.
And then the all tests for fifth grade, it's said. But in all tests in fifth grade, that's a growth area, an opportunity.
Well, what that tells us is certainly, yes, I want to affirm that. And also just to continue taking a careful look at how we support our fifth grade math teachers. Yeah, specifically. Gap closing, 5 stars again, significantly exceeding state standards. If you look to the left, you'll see this is English language arts and this is the achievement by student group. I know that's kind of hard for you to read where you are, but what's important for you to make note of is that where the red dot is where the state anticipated we should be with our achievement. And you can see every single one of those bars is past where the red dot is. And then when you get to the right, that's about our growth index. And so you can see, I just want to make note of, look at that top red bar. Okay, those are our English learners. Like, look at how far they have exceeded the state's expectation for how much growth they might make in a year. And we have a lot of other bars that are to the right of that red line. We have some that are close. They look further, it's like from a 1 to a 2. So it's a very small statistical note to make. I think the gap in the chart makes it look larger than it is. But then we do have, again, it's not statistically very significant, but we do have to make note that we have in the negative.
Those are areas of opportunity as well for those students. So it's, all of those students are not reaching what the state says they should meet.
By a
growth.
By a very slim margin.
Okay.
Very slim.
And then one of them goes backwards.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. And let's look at the same for math. Again, how exciting that you see the bars so far past those red dots, and then that's achievement. And then you look to the right and you can see our math growth.
And then on math, so students with disabilities have 0 growth.
So if you look at math, let's look at everything. Yes, let's start with the teal bar would be our student group, Hispanic group. And then underneath that, we have multiracial, we have economically disadvantaged, we have English learners. Let's see, students with disabilities.
The last group, I think, they're just not showing up. 0.0.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So students with disabilities are getting no growth in Sycamore School District in math.
Well,
Let us look into that.
yeah. That is a good
That would be a
for us to
opportunity.
talk about more and think about more and look into. I appreciate you asking. Graduation rate, you can see that we have either surpassed or met what the state anticipated, and that includes for our students with disabilities, we're right at their expectation for
Okay.
graduation
And
rate.
this graduation rate is 4 years, right? This does not take into account the TIP program at all.
Yes, I believe it is. Let me double check that too.
I did ask our county superintendent to check into, because one of our legislators at the last legislative breakfast promised us that there was going to be an introduction of legislation that would remove this penalty, so to speak, for taking care of our students. And I asked him, we need this implemented ASAP. Because, you know, we have a significant number of students this year that may defer their diploma. It gives us very little wiggle room for our graduation rate. So it's wrong and it's ridiculous that they penalize us for something that is allowable for our students with special needs.
And the right thing to do for students.
It is absolutely the right thing to do, but you know, our district should not take a penalty on something that our community looks at and judges our school district by because of that. And so they were supposed to introduce it and I don't know where it ended up, but you know, this is something that I'm very passionate about because we've talked about this in the past.
We're not going to change doing the right thing for
Kids, we should just not have to take a penalty for it.
I thought that they did change it. Was it I thought that
It was introduced, but
year or two ago.
But they didn't get changed.
It never got changed.
This should be reflecting the 4-year graduation rate.
our graduation rate would be probably 99%.
Right. Mhm.
I just was curious, when you look at the zero up here, just for my reference, it's not that they didn't make growth, it's that they didn't exceed 1 year's worth of, growth, right? Is that correct?
So like when you were thinking about when we got stuck on the math.
Right,
what
they
that means.
made a year, they did, like, when you look at that, isn't that they've exceeded more than 1 year's worth of growth?
Yeah, and so, yes, and so that red line would designate where the state would want us to be, but 0 is 1 year's worth of growth.
So they made the growth, they didn't exceed that growth.
Thank you, Brad Level. There you have it, folks. Still think it
I
would
don't
be
know.
interesting to dig further into the data though.
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So it doesn't mean that the year's worth of growth wasn't made, but the state anticipated, based on our data, where we would be, and we're not showing
Not
that.
meeting the.
So
what the
zero, not
state was-
zero representations worth of growth.
But they met a year's worth of growth.
Right.
But I think I'd like to look further into it to confirm, and we can talk more.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good,
But is
something
that
to bring
the
back to
standard?
us
But
at
if we-
the-
But if any other group had that, would we be okay with that?
I don't think we're saying we're okay with it. I just was clarifying what the zero means.
okay.
It what, I just
Because
didn't
zero
want it to
doesn't
be that
mean
there was
no-
no growth made, that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just important that we acknowledge that there was growth made, but that it needs more conversation. So let me show you a little bit of the gifted data, and that's where I'm inviting Mrs. Tompkins to jump in.
So, remember looking at closing, there are 3 areas in which we gifted. The 3 areas are our value add rating, our performance index rating, and then gifted identification and services. So we met 2 of the 3 areas. So certainly our value add is 5 stars, exemplary with our gifted students. Our performance index, 119 out of 5, like the performance index of all students, that is the average of the top 2% of districts in the state, averaged. And did we meet the state expectation of 97.5% of those points? And we did, we exceeded that by, I believe we're 98.7. And then our gifted identification services, And that is certainly an area that we continue to grow. So if you take a look, this just is a snapshot of one area of where we might receive points within gifted identification and services. I just counted, and I believe they're out of for 5 points, there are 12 areas of gifted identification and services in which points could be gathered. So one is simply out of the number of students that we are identifying. So how many students we identify in math, reading, and superior cognitive ability, and how many are we serving? The same is within our visual performing arts and creative thinking, and then our representation index of underrepresented minorities and our economically disadvantaged students. So we continue to grow points, just as a celebration. In 2021-22, we had 38.4% of points. that we, that as a district that we gained. Last year, it was 47.4% of points, and this year it's 54.8% of points. So each year we've increased as we continue to move ways to both identify and serve our gifted students.
Yeah, and that's a big, shout out to everything your team's doing as well, to allow more students to be identified and served. Because as you just pointed out, historically, there's been a much bigger gap in the students that are identified and that we were actually serving. So that's a fantastic thing to know, so.
Keep that.
Wonderful. Just additional notes regarding the graduation rate. Very exciting to have received that 5-star rating. A little bit about the graduation rate. So one thing to make note of, that this is not the class of 2024. This is the data from the class of 2023 because of the timeline of when the report card is produced. I think that's easily confused because it's on this, report card from the previous year. So we were at 96.7. We have made note though of how close that is. 96.5 is the required percentage in order to receive that 5th star. And then the 5-year graduation rate simply means that the number is boosted a bit by the students who did indeed graduate, but didn't graduate in time to be counted in the 4-year graduation rate. So graduation and then moving into early literacy.
Okay, early literacy, 4 stars. So let's talk a little bit about the early literacy indication or indicator. So it is made up of either 2 or 3 components. So the max of the 3 components of proficiency in 3rd grade and then promotion to 4th grade. So that's largely a 3rd grade indicator. And also this improving K-3 literacy. The improving K-3 literacy is determined strictly by the kindergarten readiness assessment, which is exactly as the name describes. It's given within the first 20 days of instruction for our kindergarten students, and it determines their readiness to be prepared for kindergarten. If we have more than 10% of our students who are designated not on track, so that they don't meet that threshold of being ready for kindergarten, then that component kicks into play and is figured within that entire calculation. That was a recent change, actually changed last year. Prior to last school year, districts had between the start of the school year and around November to administer that assessment. So once we had that large area or time to be able to give that assessment, we certainly had less than 10% of our students who were not on track. But that 20 days of instruction has changed this indicator for not only Sycamore, but for many districts, because it's showing that more than 10% of our students are not on track based on that kindergarten readiness assessment.
And just to make a quick connection to the data I shared, that was the kindergarten readiness data that I was sharing with you regarding those 20 students out of the roughly 50.
Good data. So our proficiency for 4th, Our proficiency for 4th grade, you can see that 84% of our students were proficient in 3rd grade. No students were retained in 4th grade. The celebration here is improving in literacy, and that number again continues to increase. So last year, our improving K-3 literacy was around 40%. This year, it's gone up to 55.4%. That is the percent of moving students from not on track to on track over the course of the school year. So that number increased 15% from 1 year. So celebration.
Absolutely.
Yes, quite significant.
It's difficult to do.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tompkins. Some celebrations and opportunities that we can make note of. This is the second time that the district has received that 5-star rating. The 5-star rating is also a bit of a newer construct, I would say, in the last few years. 3 years in a row, though, we've received that 5th star for achievement, 3 years in a row for progress. Also 3 years in a row for the gap closing, 5 stars, 5 stars, 3 years in a row for graduation. There's a theme here. Wow, people are really doing some incredible work. That increased performance index went up by 0.2 from last school year. The increase in the number of students who are gifted identified. I should have named the increase in percentage in K-3 literacy. That all subgroups have met the graduation rate indicator is important to note. And I wanted to make note that we are in the top 4% in the state, but we're actually in the top 3% in the state in progress. So opportunities, when you think about all the green that you saw on that chart, just continuing to work as a community of practice and how do we make more growth across grade levels and contents. Continuing to support the 5th grade math team. You know, that is an indication of systemic work that we have to do and not work at the individual teacher level. Also just continuing to increase the number of gifted services that we might be able to provide. It's something worth staying on. I know that's been a journey that a lot of growth has been made, but we're committed to staying on the course with that work. Continuing in our work in K-3 literacy, the gains were incredible. It's like, wow, I could have put it in celebration. Yes, incredible gains. And also we recognize that we still have work to do. And then I just wanted to make note that while there won't be time for this evening, the sixth area of the component of the report card, which is not calculated for your ratings or your calculation, is the college, career, workforce, and military readiness component. Wow, what a mouthful. While it's not calculated, we are seeing some opportunities for growth, and we'd love to talk to you more about that, perhaps even at the academic retreat.
Fantastic. And I think it's just a testament to all the great work that's going on at the district level and in the classroom with the teachers. I would like to see in future reports, not tonight, but let's look at the opportunities from this year, next year, and see how did we do on the specific opportunities? Because you're right, there's so much to celebrate, but there's also opportunities, and that's what we really need to continue to focus on.
Yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed learning about the report card and seeing the printouts that are going to be sent in the mail, and just learning about all the details. As soon as it came out, I went online and looked, and it really is remarkable. There's so much that goes into this, and I know, and it's a wonderful thing. And I also just always want to think about how we have that continuous improvement. We always have to ask ourselves, and I know that you already do that. So I feel very comfortable that you will continue to, everyone here will continue to do that. Just wherever we can find opportunities and keep increasing education and student achievement, great. And I think one of the areas that, we'll talk about in other board business, and we will talk about as goals for the board, is student achievement. And like, what is our role as a board for student achievement? And I think that it is finding opportunities to help students that maybe are falling behind, right? And I think you bringing the kindergarten issue to our issue is, like you said, almost like early intervention in a way, because you're basically trying to help set students up for success. Yes, I understand there will be some students that also need to be set up for success, to be pushed to go to kindergarten, right? So that's going to be the challenge for all of us, but for you as professional educators, but it's very impressive. It's wonderful news, and everyone should celebrate, and we all should always look for how we can keep improving and be humble about it, right?
Thank you for that. I'll make one final quick note. One, in that it's important for me to make mention that this is really not really my story to tell. I'm new to my position, and so I get a little self-conscious celebrating the incredible work here, knowing that I wasn't a part of the story. So I just want to name that I recognize that. And no story is one person's to tell, regardless, right? It takes an entire community. So thank you to everybody who's been involved prior to my time here. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't make note that in the implementation of the new math and ELA curriculums this year, regardless of how talented, hardworking, inspiring your staff is, and we have the best of the best, implementation science will show you that there will be a decrease in achievement when you're implementing a new curriculum. And that's not that there may be. Implementation science would say that there will be. And I'm not trying to be ominous or scary, but I'm actually trying to look out for our teachers who are working very hard to learn this new curriculum and implement it. And I want them to know that we acknowledge that. We're not making excuses, but we also need to acknowledge realities when you implement change.
And then what does the data say about year 2, 3?
You should see better data after year 1.
So we can say now 1 year in advance, when we have this 1 year from now, we can set it, this would be the case. That's helpful. Thank you for giving us that heads up. I think it's really valuable to have your perspective and fresh perspective in explaining the data to us, right? I think you're part of our story now. So thank you for helping us share it.
And this be a good chance to publicly thank all the teachers, the administrators, the district office people, the students and their parents who contributed to this report card. Because as hard as the teachers work about getting this stuff in, it's the kids coming willingness to learn, it's the parents' willingness to push those kids to be better and everything that makes scores like this. So this is a great chance to publicly thank all of those people for doing that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Okay. Now we will move to our discussion of policy first read. And just a general summary would be
Sure.
sufficient, I believe.
Yes, so I recognize it's getting late. We also, no, it's good stuff. It's all good stuff. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to recognize that there has been a lot of recent legislation that's passed that has brought a lot of policy changes that have gone through policy committee and also the leadership cabinet to discuss. And so what you have is a whole list of first reads here, and I've broken them down into new policies, revised customized policies, and revised policies. The board has been updated with all of these ahead of time for review. I've also given you an overview in your packet today of what I'm going to discuss. My goal is just to hit the highlights. I'm more than happy to have any policy conversation you would ever want to have offline, but I also wanted to make note for any community member that might be listening right now. I've also attached the spreadsheet of the September dashboard online so people can see all these policies listed and the notes and the impact. So the biggest piece of legislation that's impacted policy is House Bill 214. And so as I go through, I'll mention that a few times here, but again, I'm not going to hit on every policy, just some of the highlights. One of the big themes is fraud reporting. So the auditor estate is wanting to make sure that all staff members are being held accountable in this realm. And so there's some online trainings we're going to be doing now, but also extends to the Board of Education. And so I've sent you that video. I would ask that you all watch that video, and you're going to be signing off that you watch that video so that we can all be in compliance with that.
Riveting.
It is riveting, yes. Political commitments. This is a companion to our current GBG, staff participation in political activities. It's really just requiring each school district to adopt and post policy against using statements to commit to, solicit, or requiring specific individuals to affirmatively ascribe to specific beliefs, ideals, principles concerning political movements. So what the legislator is just really wanting us to make sure we're doing, and we already do it, is staying apolitical and away from any of the conversations that is in the community or in society. It also, House Bill 214 has added 3 religious expression days for students that do not count against their attendance. There are some kind of guardrails around how those are requested and used, but essentially we don't ask questions. We grant those days to our students and families. There's also language around artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Artificial intelligence, it's not limiting the use of AI in the schools, but it's really just trying to take a closer look at generative AI and cybersecurity in regard to reinforcing expectations around cybersecurity. It also adds additional liability to employees as a result of not performing duties without reasonable care. And so those policies are just matching, again, what the new legislation is requiring. And then the last one there under new policies is fiscal management goals. And this is a conversion of our current policy DA to DAG. And I do want to point out that this is the conversation that Ms. Logan has had through the financial retreat. So there's still going to be work done in regards to this policy, but this is just converting that policy over. And Ms. Logan has reviewed the policy and her team, so it's pretty standard. The next set is revised customized policies. So these are policies that we as Sycamore has customized over time that we've had to add to. So we currently have a communications policy in regards to cell phones, electronic device. House Bill 250 now requires that we adopt a policy governing the use of cell phone technologies. And it aligns, this policy will align us to that state law. I want to make sure that we're clear, though, that the policy itself is pretty generalized in nature. Our job now is to create guidelines around how that policy is going to be implemented within the school system. And so Mrs. Lawson and her team are going to be working with the building administrators to make sure that our guidelines are in the new handbook for the upcoming school year. It also addresses meeting minutes. So currently our policy, the way it reads by state laws, that policy is meeting minutes should be presented at the following board meeting. This now changes that to the next regular meeting. So for instance, if we have a board meeting today and tomorrow there's a special meeting, poor Miss Logan and her team would have to have the minutes turned around for approval at tomorrow's meeting. Now it's just the next regular meeting. One of the bigger policy changes that we have here as it relates to business operations, this is kind of exciting for us. Senate Bill 168 has changed the threshold for public bidding from 50,000 to 75,000 with an automatic 3% update each year. That's fantastic with inflation right now. It really helps us do our job way better. The other thing that I've made mention in this first reading is that we've went ahead as a kind of Sycamore customized piece of this is right now at 25,000, we're required to get 3 estimates. We've moved that to 50,000 with the bidding going to 75,000. We felt like that made sense based on how current costs are coming in. It allows us to keep moving forward with our business. The last one on the revised customized policies is in regard to co-curricular, extracurricular activities. This is actually comes out of House Bill 147, and it's added a new provision to allow the superintendent of a school to permit a home educated student, a student enrolled in community school, STEM or STEAM school, or non-public school, or a student enrolled in a different district to participate in interscholastic activities if they were subject to certain conduct or qualifying offenses, even if the district is not student in that district of residence. This is a big one. And I'm not going to go into it now, but essentially what that's saying is that if you have a student that had a qualifying offense, other district, and I'm not getting into what those are, they have the ability to come to our school district for athletics only. It would be up to the discretion of the superintendent. There's a lot of layers around this. Ultimately, right now, we don't have to be too reactive because it's ultimately up to our decision on whether or not we're going to allow that. But I can tell you the legislators are working to make some, I think, adjustments to that because it was born out of a good thing and then ended up getting thrown at the 11th hour. And then they realized a brighter impact that that will have. So we are making the update to the policy, but I wanted to let everybody know that there are wider implications of this policy we have to address. And then lastly, our revised policies. There's just a few here. Student absence policy that we have to update to include the religious expression days. The other one is deposit of public funds. This expands the law regarding cash payments for school affiliated events. Reminder that we recently went through a policy revision because the legislator wanted to make sure that we would allow cash at all of our extracurricular sporting events. This one basically says that it prohibits, I'll just read it. Regarding cash payments for school affiliated events by prohibiting a qualifying school from establishing different prices for tickets based on the use of cash or other payment methods, except that it may charge a processing fee. So for instance, if we're saying you want to come to the football game, we can't say, hey, if you pay us cash, it's going to be 20. If you're paying credit card, it's going to be 35. All you're allowed doing is acknowledging the processing fee within that payment. Professional staff hiring. This is another one that could potentially benefit us moving forward. It changes the retire hire notice 60 days to 30 days. Again, we actually have leveraged this quite frequently in the past just because mainly our classified employees. We've got some great folks that are looking to retire, hard to fill positions. And so this gives us a little bit more flexibility with that. First aid, in this updated policy, it requires AEDs to be in all buildings and field of play. We have already been meeting this standard, so that's no change for us. Protection for reporting fraud and safety violations, that's that training component I've talked about. And then computer and online services. Now, this is Senate Bill 29. We are moving forward with the changes in our policy. This is a giant lift. Mr. Long back there smiling right now, he is working with his peers across the region to understand better the impacts of this within the system. The broad overview and understanding of this policy is that we have to, one, identify all applications that are used within our system, and we have to give parents notice of those applications ahead of time. While that seems pretty easy, as you can imagine, we have a lot of classrooms, a lot of teachers, and a lot of different computer software programs, applications, apps, whatever we want to call them, being used. We have to kind of hone that in to be able to better identify and publish that notice. We also, if we're going to be using, using or checking devices for student activity, the other piece of this requires a notice, a 72-hour notice to our parents that we have looked at a student's account. And that may seem a little weird to you and all of us because they're our devices on our network and we want to keep kids safe. But the change of this law now requires us to notify parents anytime that we're monitoring student activity online. That is a massive shift. Again, this was a bill that was passed in the 11th hour without a lot of discussion at the state legislature. And so now there's a lot of implications to it that now the legislators are saying, oh, yikes. So we anticipate there's going to be a lot of fixes to this one. But I did want to let you know that we are aligning our policy to state law, which is required by October 24th. Last two, and I'll be done, school year, school calendar. This one right here allows the public hearing on school calendar to be separate individual hearing or be part of the regular meeting. So it just gives us the flexibility that it doesn't have to be in the meeting. It can be a separate meeting or vice versa. And last but not least, there policy updates to health education, and sex education. These are just word changes. They're nothing different in the policy that would impact how we instruct. It's just what we're calling sexually transmitted diseases now. Questions? I time myself.
I wanted to say that you worked very, very hard on this. I know that you did. And this is a lot, and this is a lot of changes for this district and for every district. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the committee that worked on this, and thank you for doing that brief summary, but I think it's still important, and I just thank you for doing this.
Sure, yeah.
And I know we're gonna have some changes after that, so thanks for staying on top of it.
And our next step, obviously, is educating our administrators and our team. So it's the legislation's passed, the policy passed. Now we have to actually tell people it's passed and what that means. And so we're working diligently.
And when it gets undone, then you have to fix.
Then we have to go tell them again, it got changed, but we're used to that. We work with state legislators all the time. So we just do our thing and then go back and go forward. Thank you.
All right, so that's the first read. So now when it comes back the next time, you already know. And if any board members have any questions, anyone have questions here? If anyone has questions, please reach out to Mr. Lovell.
Yep, absolutely.
Logan. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Going to G next, right? Yes. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of an agreement with New Path Child and Family Solutions?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of an agreement with Icron Corporation?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant. Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for change order number 2, Blue Ash Restroom Addition and Mapledale Media Center renovation projects?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Any comments? Everyone good? Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for transportation impractical?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant. Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. We have other.
Before I get to the 4 of you that are not running Zoom, will you please go home? We have early morning tomorrow with a major community event, so don't stay on our part. Just go, please.
And I want to say, and Mr. Burson, I know you have a new baby at home. Congratulations. So go home and see that baby.
Looking tired already.
Go give your wife some relief. So
Congratulations.
And I'll say just
I'll be very brief because I had a lot written down. There's a lot going on. It's the end of the quarter, end of the athletic season. First and foremost, the niche report, number 4 in the state. Again, being one of the top rated schools, it's so great, but I also think it's worth noting, 5 of our schools are counted in the elementary category. They finished 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So we take up 5 of the top 10 slots.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. Then our junior high is number 3 in the state and our high school is number 6 in the state. Every school is in the top 10. That's amazing. So kudos again, not only for the report card, but for these other ways that were measured. Some mailers are coming out, excited community. You will be getting a new mailer with a trifold. Every home in the district will get one. It has some really critical information. I'm not going to read over it. You can read it for yourself. And then we'll have our new strategic plan document that will be available as well. So we'll be handing those out tomorrow at the Business and Community Partnership Breakfast. Why are you still sitting here? The BASA conference was recent. Both myself and Mr. Lovell and Mrs. Lawson went to the BASA conference last week. I'm not going to speak for them. They can tell you at another time, but I attended a lot of legal sessions, tried to get updates from other law firms other than ours, and certainly one of the law firms was ours, but also got to hear some great updates from some other law firms and really gave us good legal updates on a myriad of topics. And I would normally dig into them, but not going to dig into them tonight. But lots of good information that was shared. And I would say the power of that conference is the collaboration and connection to other state superintendents. So the niche report came out while we were there, and it was great because I was on a group text with the other top 10 superintendents, and it was great to celebrate with them while we were there. So Monday, we did social media superstars. I basically recognized with a breakfast my top 30 to 35 high school students that follow me on social media and like my posts and share them. They were very surprised to get a recognition breakfast for that reason. Junior high orchestra is walking in the Blink Parade. I will be with them at the Banks on October 17th. Marching band is at Hamilton. This past weekend, I was there. They got a superior rating, and I will tell you, they put on a heck of a performance. On October 19th, I will be there again. They'll be at Turpin performing. They qualified for the OMEA state finals just for that Hamilton performance. That was their first performance of the season. So that's amazing. GMC girls golf. We didn't only have the champions at the high school, we have the champions at the junior high as well. So golf's looking really strong for the next few years. 7th and 8th grade volleyball play tomorrow at 4:30. Mr. Ovington and I will be there to support our volleyball teams. And then our girls cross country, both 7th and 8th grade, are the GMC champs. So pretty cool. And last night, special event for our seniors. I've received numerous emails, and I know I forwarded you some of them. And for all those people that I hope they're now starting to see that we are truly in a multi-purpose stadium. The boys soccer team played their senior night there. Mr. Ovington and Mr. Porter and the athletic department lined up our drum line with Mr. Goes to be our Bailey, like at FC Cincinnati. They drummed the entire first half. It was awesome. We went down 3-0 quick. We got back to 3-2. Our student section was cheering everyone on. The lights, every time we scored a goal, the lights would flicker on and off and then chase each other. It was a really cool environment, and everybody that has written said, I hope we can do this again. So we'll definitely make that a norm. And the girls play there tomorrow night. So again, Mr. Ovington is doing a phenomenal job with his team, really being present. For him to be going to 7th and 8th grade volleyball and then going to soccer tomorrow night just shows his dedication to really connecting all the groups. So that's all I have. Sorry. I know we're in a long night, but I think that was important information that we share with our community. So
Yes, it was that's all really good and positive news. So thank you. Okay, can I please get a motion and a second for the personnel consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Ballant?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter?
Aye. Next item is, last item of the agenda is the other board business. We had a PTO visit update. Mr. Harris, would you like to give the update of our recent PTO visit?
Sure. We had a combined PTO meeting between the junior high and Green School last night at the beautiful new Green School. Well, it's not quite new, but it's still beautiful. We had some parents there, answered some questions, went over some objectives of the school board for the previous year, for this year. Talked about our board goals and some of the things that we're doing in the district. Had a lot of good feedback from the parents. A lot of parents are really, it was very refreshing for the parents to be there and talk about how welcome they were to see us and glad they were to see us and everything. And tried to reiterate to them that we're trying to get out there so they can see us and talk to us and bring their concerns forward and everything. Mr. Lewis was there to save us from a couple of questions there, but it went very well. And hopefully, as a matter of fact, we received some feedback from them. They'd like to try and do something again second semester and get some more parents there. So more than up for that.
That was great. And I have received emails back from most of the PTOs, and most of them would like to do something like later in the year or next year. So I'll send around emails. I didn't feel like it was urgent for me to get those to you just yet, but I will send out emails to see if we can get something scheduled. And I think that's fine. We can do them all year. Okay. Next item is, well, so I'm gonna put, I mean, we will always have, as other board business, something about our board goal updates, and we don't have to do anything today, but we all have, our 3 board goals, and we're all assigned. If anyone here would like to say something, or give an update at this one, please feel free. I did add for each section, so we have our number 1 was to create a board community engagement plan. I'm just gonna make this request right now because we're all here together. Because I'm on that part of the committee. We need to obtain a communication plan from the administration with some aligning board messaging. So how can we do that, Mr. Lewis? How should I email you? How do I go about doing that with Dr. James? That was one of the things that we have as our goal. So we would like to, I think we already kind of are doing that with our PTO visits, and I feel like we're already aligning, but I want to follow up with you, and I will do that, not right now, but I just want to let you know. And if you prefer that I send something to someone else, please let me know.
No, I think connecting with me and then Mrs. Von Bright, I told her that it was really critical that the board would like to see a very strategic communication plan in collaboration with the board. So I think Ms. Von Bright and I can set up a time with you and Dr. James to sit down and really kind of hash that out.
Perfect. Perfect.
We can bring our recommendations back to the whole board.
And Mr. Harris, Mr. Brown, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but putting you on the spot, do you have anything you'd like to say about goal number 2 right now, or would you like to take a pass and talk about it next time?
Well, I'll take a pass and talk about it next.
Okay.
Mr. Harris, you do agree?
I second that.
Okay, very good. Well, the other board goal, which is number 3, the 2 members that are a part of that are not here, so we're gonna go ahead and move on from that one as well. Okay, Business Advisory Council meeting update. I just, very briefly, I want you to know that we met today and we had an excellent meeting. It was a very good group I think our group is very engaged, and it was a very positive conversation. I felt really good about it. We will have the business breakfast tomorrow, and many of the members will attend at the high school tomorrow. We talked a lot about the strategic plan and gave them an update. And Mrs. Lawson gave a very great presentation about some of the durable skills, or AKA soft skills, and asked for feedback, and that was a really positive experience. And then we also talked about how we will work on the not strategic plan, the bylaws, and we will get that for the next meeting. So that's the update. There will be minutes that will eventually be posted on the website. Okay, board academic retreat. That's coming up. So for board members, if you have not already done it, please fill out your personality.
Working genius
Working
assessment.
genius
Yes.
assessment. It only takes 10 minutes. It's kind of fun. We have that coming up on October 14th. And we look forward to a lively and positive team building experience with our board and our administrators. I think it's going to be great. I always enjoy this. This is our academic retreat.
And you'll see, just for transparency, we posted the agenda on our board docs, and it's not being held here. When we retreat, we truly like to get off-site and
Yep.
retreat somewhere. So we will be at the Kenwood Theater at the 13 Knives Restaurant. That sounds so terrible to say, but it is.
Collaboration is
again,
key for team
there is a
success.
connection to a Sycamore person that runs that restaurant. So again, we're always trying to find those connections. So it'll be a day of learning, as Mrs. Lawson just went through the buildings, and you'll also see on there athletics, academic affairs, and OSS are also going to be presenting to you. So a little deeper dive into all of the components. Obviously, athletics has a little different view, but they'll give you some data, and Andrew's going to share with you the things that he's changed and impacted since taking the job only the last few months, but his impact is great and his team has been great. So looking forward to a day of learning with all of you, and there'll be time in there for us to learn about ourselves as well. So just wanted to be transparent with our community, where we would be and what we're going to be working on.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then any items, board members? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.